what are your thoughts on the Thursday night opener, the Eagles' victory over the Cowboys? We'll just go macro on you here, Dan.
From the Philadelphia Eagles perspective, one, quarterback looked fantastic. I thought Jalen played about as perfect as you could play. Literally, statistically, he rivals it. 23 pass attempts, 19 completions, so that's 4 misses, but 3 of them are drops and 1's a throwaway. So you watched him carry the football team. I thought was perfect.
I also know there's dead
Super
spots
Bowl,
in
you're
the
going, this guy's hot right now. This guy's hot right now. I think the second thing is you played your C game. You played your C game and you still win at home against a divisional opponent, whether you think that the divisional opponent is a world beater or not. That's encouraging. I think the 2 things that probably have Nick Sirianni's attention, one, the 9 penalties defensively for over 100 yards, not okay. Obviously, the Jalen Carter thing starts it, but the 9 penalties, and I think 3 or 4 of them unsportsmanlike, big deal. So addressing that. And the second thing is, and Rich, all going yesterday morning, leaning into the game, if I was the Cowboys, I'm throwing 80% of my passes opposite Quinyon Mitchell. So they picked on Adoree Jackson, and that's got to have your attention because they had Dallas a ton of success doing that, okay? So those are 2 things that if you're Philly, grab your attention, but you're 1-0. I think from Dallas, it's a double-edged sword for me. One, you gave the game away. It was there, and you beat yourselves. 4 drops. Obviously, the Miles Sanders fumble is huge. Shout out to Zach Bond because that fumble doesn't happen if he doesn't track him down. But the 4 drops by CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in football. It's there for the taking. So you're that one part of you like so disappointed in that regard. But on the other edge, you're going, I feel encouraged if I'm the Cowboys and their fans. My head coach looked like he got us to play the right way. Brian Schottenheimer looked competent. We're situationally in a good place. We situationally. Dak Prescott looked fantastic. He looked better last night than he did all of last season. The interior of our offensive line looked really good. Now, no Jalen Carter, so I'm not going to discount that doesn't matter. But that interior of the offensive line, given what was in front of them, looks very good. And I also think the defense was better against the run. So 0-1, no doubt, but I'm encouraged if I'm the Cowboys to clean some things up.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, we all, found it, I'll be honest, a little bit laughable to hear how let's trade away Micah because we need to stop the run. And here comes Kenny Clark straight up for Micah Parsons. You're wondering how in the world a team could do something like that. But you take a look at what happened last night when Kenny Clark was on the field. The Dallas Cowboys allowed just 2.8 yards per carry, and then when Clark was off the field, 6.6 yards per carry. He actually did affect some things, and it came down to Jalen Hurts breaking their back with his legs when he wasn't being accurate with his arm. And you take a look at the CD drops, you got to figure that's not going to be the case. You're hoping that Javonte Williams' success wasn't completely all due to the fact that Jalen Carter spat his way out of the game. If you're Dallas, you do have to feel pretty damn good about all of that. Certainly if you want to prove that your coach has the chops and you want to prove that Micah's trade isn't the end of their existence, right?
Yes, right. So again, that's what vantage point did you want to see it? Because you could also make the case, Rich, like they win that game with Micah. Because those 5 first downs that Jalen runs for, Micah tracks him down for 1 or 2. So you sit in, and that's why I say like a playoff contending football team is what I think I saw in Dallas last night. Because they don't have any difference makers on defense. They don't. It's a good unit. It was solid, but they don't. If I look at the Rams, they got Jared Verse. If I look at the Eagles, they got Jalen Carter. If I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got Vita Vea, difference maker. And so, like, you're encouraged by the way the unit played. You sit there and go, it's still lacking that real, specifically front 7 difference maker.
Well, I mean, I'm not sitting here obviously saying that they shouldn't have traded Micah. I mean, that's nuts. But I again, it was an encouraging execution that you saw last night. The result wasn't, but at least Dallas didn't get blown out, which I thought everyone thought was a possibility. And then you look at the Eagles. You're right; they were lucky to come out with a win last night. That the Cowboys would have 1,000,000% signed for Jalen Carter being kicked out before snap, and if Saquon is only 60 yards and A.J. Brown doesn't get a single touch or a look until the final drive of the game, they would have signed for that. What about the passing game that you saw last night from Philadelphia moving forward that might be something? Because that was a major concern that caused A.J. Brown to start reading books on the sideline last year, and I'm wondering if that might be an issue for this team this year,
Right now, that's not something for me. I think that what I've evolved in my kind of the way I think about and look at Jalen and their passing game is I just think he's one of those rare guys, Rich, that just does whatever is needed on that play to make sure that play is operated the right way and that whatever's needed to win that football game. And so a lot of times with quarterbacking, you have your play. And then you get to the line of scrimmage and the defense has theirs. And the defense, in some ways, dictates to you what you're going to do with the ball. And you can't just force the ball to certain areas. And if you watch Dallas, they just played with really soft coverage. They played with that umbrella or half circle shell. You're not going to throw the ball over our heads. We're going to play a ton of zone. And that's why you saw Dallas Goedert get 7 catches. And so that's why you saw Jalen run the football 9 times, because they just kept everything in front of them. And we're not going to allow the ball to go over their heads outside of that one Jahan Dotson throw. And so I'm not going to overreact to it right now. I think it falls on Kevin Patullo, because here's the thing. Go back to the Super Bowl last year, and Kansas City came out and said, well, we're going to play with one safety in the middle of the field, and we're going to play man coverage, and we're going to challenge you guys. Jalen threw the ball downfield. That's just the simplistic beast of what you're going against in Philly's offense. If you want to make sure that you do not allow them to throw the ball downfield, then it's going to look like it did.
Boy, things in South Florida not feeling good. It's pouring rain down here in Miami, and it was also pouring rain for the Dolphins out in Indianapolis after they got worked by Daniel Jones and the Colts. After the game, Tyreek Hill saying, quote, "This was just a big kick in the balls for us." And I don't think you could put it any more plain there. I didn't even know we could say that on TV, but instead here we are. That kind of puts it in perspective. Guys, I felt like I was watching a horror movie watching the Dolphins and the Colts today, and it was just almost, Pete, surprising, because you knew that this team maybe wasn't going to be as talented as what they look like on paper. But were you expecting the performance from the Dolphins today that we got?
Not this bad. No, absolutely not. Look, I know it's tough to open on the road in the NFL. It's always hard to do. But you got to go in there and compete. And they didn't even compete. It wasn't even close. Tua was terrible. I mean, the offensive line wasn't good. He kept getting hit. He turned the ball over. And defensively, they made Daniel Jones look like he was Peyton Manning in a Colts uniform. And it's a bad combination. And they have major problems. Let's be real. You have the discipline problems from a year ago. They tried to be tougher this year. New coach. Look, ultimately, it falls back on the head coach. Mike McDaniel went in there. He was loosey-goosey. He cared more about playing music at the practices, and somebody has a good practice, they can play their music. Whoa, you wear the orange jersey. Give me a break.
You hate that orange jersey.
I hate the whole idea of lack of discipline. Remember at the end of last season, he said, I find these guys, but they still were late. Well, that's on you. It's a reflection of you. So the problem is Mike McDaniel. And I think Mike McDaniel's seat just got really, really hot today.
I think it feels like the end is around the corner.
Like during the season?
Yes. If it goes this bad, no, I mean, I'm not saying. I'm saying it would. I'm not saying they should do it. I'm saying it's starting to feel like it might be by necessity. How do you go into week 1 of the NFL season? It's supposed to be the easiest time to get everybody up, and you come out flat and look like that. That was an embarrassing performance for the Miami Dolphins. And for all the offseason criticism, there's something that feels broken. I think the relationship between Tua and Tyreek is broken. I think the relationship with Mike McDaniels and his players feels broken, where they do not respond to him as a coach that is very feared or respected in that locker room. I think they like him. That's not always a good thing if you're best friends and buddy-buddy with your coach, because they've walked all over him. They are not a very mentally or physically tough team right now. And if they don't turn this thing around soon, I think the writing is going to be on the wall.
Yeah, it was talked about all offseason, right? This team needs to be tougher. This team needs to be more physical, more aggressive. And then you come into week one against a very physical, tough, and aggressive team in the Indianapolis Colts, and it didn't show like you improved in those areas. You look at this Miami defense, they gave up 156 rushing yards. And it's very hard to win games in the National Football League when your defense is giving up 156 yards rushing. But then on the offensive side of the ball, they only had 46 plays. They only had 46 plays and only had 12 rushing attempts, which in Mike McDaniel's offense, the key component is being able to run the ball or have the threat of running the ball. And we know the play action pass is a big part of Tua's game and those in-breaking routes. And if you have no threat of running the ball, you virtually have no opportunity to win.
I will say their secondary was decimated during training camp. It looked like that's going to be exploited for a while until they can figure it out. And with Daniel Jones looking as comfortable as he did in the pocket, it doesn't look like they're going to have much pass rush to help out an inexperienced, not very good secondary. I'm just telling you, I don't like calling for guys to be fired. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's getting to the point, and it's only one weekend. They can turn this around, and we could all forget about this one. But they have to do some serious soul searching this week of practice. But why didn't they do that all offseason? Like everyone's been challenging them all offseason. Why didn't they respond in their biggest opportunity, which is week one?
Well, here's the other thing. We say their secondary's been decimated. When Kader Coho is the guy you're talking about as the big major loss in your secondary, you got problems in your secondary. He's a nice little player, but come on, let's be real. Artie Burns, Artie Burns was passed around the league by a bunch of people. So think about this. They had issues with this team before the injuries. The injuries only compounded it. And ultimately, if you want to look at two guys, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, there's your problems. And they all get... How many times has Chris Greer stayed around?
He's got like 9 lives, man.
It's unbelievable. And so I think if you want to look at the change needs to come. Change will come. If they don't make the playoffs, I think you're going to see a new general manager, a new head coach, and you might see a new quarterback.
If they don't make the playoffs, they might not make 5 wins.
Well, if they don't make 5 wins, if they don't make 5 wins by midseason, you might see a change by then.
Okay, so the seat is hot for head coach Mike McDaniel. We will leave it at that. You know, the seat has been hot, it feels like, for Brian Dable and the Giants. And
Fernando Navarro, is Tyreek Hill a possibility? Short answer is no, he's not. It's just he might be a trade possibility for somebody else, but the Cowboys have their top 2 receivers. I kind of don't want to put Tyreek Hill into a George Pickens locker room. If we're going to do culture stuff, that ain't Tyreek Hill, I'm sorry. So I don't think he's a possibility for the Cowboys, not if the GP3 trade.